Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Due to technical difficulties, we join the show in progress.
The best interest of not only the athlete, but also the student as well. But realistically, if we're going to be talking about coaches being able to flip from one school to the next, I think players should be able to do the same thing. I also am cool with players getting paid. I think there are some things that can be done at the university level and at the NCAA level that can make it more manageable from a transfer portal standpoint. One of the things that I had the opportunity to do this week was hop on a call with a couple D1 baseball coaches to talk about the redshirt rule. Because if you look at college football, guys can play a third of the season and maintain their red shirt. But in baseball and in basketball and in other sports as well, you step onto the court or you step onto the field one time, that red shirt is burned for the season. And Oregon State's head coach made a really good point. He says, we might be able to keep some guys out of the transfer portal as younger student athletes if they have the ability to not only get a fifth year, but get some more development and get some more in-game experience as true freshmen. When you think about baseball, one of the key points of debate that has been going on and on and on for years now is how much are you willing to use one single pitcher in a weekend, in a week, in a season, right? How much are we going to be able to protect these guys' arms? Well, if you're sitting there with a roster that has 17 freshmen on it, 9 of those are pitchers, and you want to redshirt them, okay, well, they can't contribute to helping lower other people's innings counts for the year. They're not also able to develop and see what they have at the college level as a true freshman. Same thing with like a point guard on a college basketball team. If you've only got 13 scholarships and you can't play 3 of those guys without burning their shirt, okay, how are you going to manage your roster? How are you going to keep guys in the program rather than, I'm redshirting, I can't play this year, I'm going to dip and go somewhere else. So I think that there are some layers to this conversation where the NCAA and specific universities can come together and try to figure out, hey, the portal's a thing now, it's not going anywhere. But there are some other things we can do to try and keep 1,500 student athletes from hitting the portal on June 1st every year.
Right. You know what's crazy is that like when the portal came in and NIL came in, and this was like at a time where like content was low, and I don't remember if it overlapped with pandemic or if the pandemic just gave us these ideas to have like brainstorming sessions. But I can remember having this conversation where like, all right, how do we govern this portal because no one else is? And you wondered about like, all right, like what if your first year on campus you can't make NIL money? Like that would severely limit your way to induce people to transfer. Now, granted, that's not fair. I understand that. If you're a post-grad player and you transfer and you've had 4 really good years, you probably want to cash in and make some money. But again, like that thinking just didn't exist anywhere else. Where are those ideas in any other capacity? But that's new thinking. I want to take it back to like 2003. I covered John Beilein when he was a coach at West Virginia. And like we had this conversation a bunch and I knew it wasn't new. I knew he didn't just break the ice with this with me, but like just give everybody 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years, play 5 seasons. Like college football players who are ready to go pro and college basketball players who are ready to go pro, they're not going to spend 5 years on campus so they're ready to go. But like sometimes a baseball player or like an offensive lineman or just like a 7-footer who just needs time to be coordinated and get his body strength and his body size together on the basketball court, like you need time to maximize it. And if that means you get a degree in that 5th year, that's fine. But like, why are we doing red shirts? Like why? And like the medical thing in basketball is so screwed up. Like, if you get hurt and your season ends like after the 11th game or something like that, like beyond 1/3 of the season, you're toast. Why? Like that's dumb. I just don't understand that. And then like, why don't we have something equivalent to the 4-game rule in other sports? Like, why is that good for basketball? Why isn't that good for basketball? Like guys blow their arm out in their 5th game of the year in a baseball season sometimes. And like, he's done. Like, why is that? Like, he didn't play a portion of the season, like what, 1/3 of the season? That's not fair. Like, why haven't we, I'm not we, because if I had to say, I would have fixed these rules already, right? But like, why hasn't the NCAA or the conferences or commissioners or presidents, chancellors sat down and done this? We've talked about this way too long. And like, that's a beginning point. Those are slam dunks. Those are easy wins for credibility and like just cashing some validation as to like, you're actually going to fix things. Those are easy wins. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, I've got a theory on that, guys, as far as what I believe. They came in and they dipped in and just said, you know what, here it is. Here's transfer portal. Here's NIL. You guys figure it out. And then they're going to let it go on for a few years. And I think the NCAA, because they have been so bad, let's not kid ourselves, they've been horrendous for so long, because they're the only ones that can literally fix this. They're going to eventually come in and swoop in and try to be the saving grace and say, hey, we let you guys do it. You guys screwed it up. And now not only are we the ones that are going to have to come in and fix this thing, we're also going to take some of your profit away from you to fix this thing. You're going to have to pay us to be able to do it. I know that's let's just say bad way of thinking, a conniving way of thinking, but the NCAA is conniving. I just believe that that's what they're trying to do. I think that's why they did all of this and just said, here it is. You guys figure it out. They knew that it was going to turn into an absolute mess. It has. And now they're going to come in, swoop in, Jamie, to save the day, and everybody's going to be singing their praises. I just believe that was their plan all along.
Well, anytime you fumble the bag so hard that the federal government has to get involved, things have gone sideways pretty badly. And I think my biggest takeaway from all of the transition that has happened over the last really 4 seasons of college athletics is there needs to be a separate body that governs college football versus the rest of college athletics.
Absolutely.
Because there is such a discrepancy in the needs and the wants, but really the needs of college football at this point versus college basketball and college baseball and beach volleyball and everything else, that you've got to start to maybe separate who's governing what. If there was an NCAA college football commissioner, I think that would be incredibly valuable. Someone who's dedicated to only thinking about how to make college football more attractive, more accessible, maybe bringing more parity to the sport, however you want to approach it. But I think we're at the point now where it's not unreasonable to consider just splitting out college football's governance from other sports and allowing some of these non-revenue sports to do what's best for them, which probably isn't sending a baseball team from Corvallis to Rutgers to play, or sending USC's basketball team to Minnesota to play basketball, right? Just the travel requirements and the difficulties of schedule for some of these sports that play more than 12 times a year, I think is going to get really out of control unless we start to govern things a little bit differently.
And again, it was 2014 where the FBS split into the autonomous 5 and the group of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we call them the Power 5 and the group of 5. The Power 5 called themselves autonomous, which meant they were going to rule themselves. And that was what you're saying, Jamie. That put us on the path of football being separate. Football's not equal from football.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind not equal from other sports. But football is so big and so important that football is not equal to football. How did they think this wasn't going to be a problem in other sports? But just football got its little ledge and its perch, and it sits there, and everybody else has to follow along. And it's ridiculous. The other sports are just it's wild to think about what's going to happen in the Big Ten. And I think it's crazy to think that people aren't going to bail from some of these positions. You're seeing coaches do this, and I understand that that's a whole other conversation. But you think in the back of Chip Kelly's head, he was thinking I can travel from Westwood to Lansing, Michigan, or Piscataway, New Jersey, and play these games. And what does Mick Cronin think of that?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be much harder for basketball teams too. So I just wonder about that being the dynamic that coaches wrestle with. But again, I also wonder how we got here. 2014, we had the split. How did we not realize back then? Again, not me. I would have fixed this problem if I had the first. How did they not figure this out? These are all problems that have been staring at us for a long, long time.
Mike, it sounds like we should just sign up to be co-commissioners at this point, because I think we can get things settled in about a week or two.
I have a saying when it comes to coaching: I would love the paycheck, I would hate the work.
Oh, that's a fair point.
I feel the same about this.
Not to mention, it's gotten so much worse, especially for college football coaches. That month of December is an absolute meat grinder. I don't even see how you get anything done. I mean, you got all this stuff coming all at once. It seems like in about a 2.5 week period, everything comes to a head, and you got to have it all figured out, and you better have it figured out, or you're going to fall behind. It's just these college coaches that are leaving. I don't blame them. Again, I know what you said, Mike. It's a conversation for another day, and you're right. But I think we all know what it is. It's just it's gotten so bad to where they can't coach football. The coach at BC, he said it. He's like, I can't be a football coach anymore. I have to worry about so many other things that all I want to do is coach football. It seems ridiculous. It's just crazy.
Brien, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with the head coach, former head coach of Boston College. I think there's a difference between a guy like Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL and a guy like the head coach of Boston College going to the NFL.
Absolutely.
Because I think one of those guys was on a little bit of a warmer seat. And I think it's really easy on your way out the door when you might have been asked to walk out the door the following season to lob some grenades in the lap of the thing that you're leaving. And let's be real here. Coaches from college have left for the NFL for decades. That's not a new situation. I do agree, though, that the calendar in college football needs someone to take a look at it and to overhaul that, and that there are more and more demands on college coaches now than ever before because of the new rules changes. Just an anecdote, TCU, when they were preparing for the national championship 2 Januaries ago, they also hosted 25 potential transfers that week.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're getting ready for the biggest game that this program has played in 80 years, and you still can't fall behind in the portal, or you're not going to get anybody to try and run it back again next year. And so the chaos of the schedule is something that definitely has to be solved. I also take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, though, when coaches are dipping out for the NFL.
Yeah, I kind of do too. First of all, I do not feel sorry for them. So I don't want to come off that I thought that, I feel sorry for them. You getting that kind of paycheck. Yeah, your job is a little harder. I go, but I don't feel sorry for you per se. I just think they have to try to change some things, because it's just what you said. If my job's to win football games at a university, great. But at the same time, if you make everything, the most important part of my entire year happens in a 2.5 week time period, that can make things a little bit difficult. Make it hard, I get it, but just spread it out a little bit. If you do that, again, it goes back to Mike, though, makes sense. We could all have, all 3 of us could have this figured out in about a week. In about 10 days to a week, we could have it all figured out, and we would move on from there.
You know the easiest thing to do? Just go back to one signing day. Just take away the early signing period. And then you don't feel the pressure to have this sprint to the finish line when 45% of the country is preparing for a bowl game.
Correct.
Or in the middle of a coaching search, whatever it might be.
I would nominate Neil Brown to be the head of some type of forward-thinking, anticipatory committee, because this man had 3 children who were born 4 days apart in February. Somehow he nailed this. I don't know how he did it, but 3 kids, 3 different ages were born, I forget, but February 2, 3, and 6, something like that, right? How did he do that? And how did he know that it was going to be after signing day, and he doesn't have to worry about birthdays in December now? He's got to take care of. I don't know how he knew this, but that man is sly. And he, again, last year, everybody's like, boy, he's really gambling on himself here. He fired himself as offensive coordinator, then he made himself offensive coordinator. He didn't change his defensive staff. He won 9 games. He clearly knows something we don't know, right? If he was able to stage the births of his children around the changing dynamics of college football's offseason, I want that guy in charge.
Look at him. Gotcha. Look at him go.
Well, we'll take a quick break here, and when we come back after the break, we will get in and for a little bit and talk about the Big 12 basketball tournament coming up here in a couple of weeks. So just a quick break from our sponsors at Synergy Financial, and we'll be right back.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders again. Brien Hanley here, joined by Jamie Plunkett, Mike Casazza. Thank you guys for joining us. So let's take a look here at the Big 12 tournament coming up. We still have a couple of weeks before the tournament hits. Big 12 basketball is just the one thing, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday in the last couple of days, is that, you could almost guarantee that something was going to happen out of the ordinary. Somebody on the road was going to get beat. There was going to be an upset. And we looked at literally the last 10 Big 12 games, no upsets happened. Everybody that we thought was supposed to win, they all won. Even the teams on the road. There were no upsets on the road. I don't think that that's going to happen this weekend. And moving forward, I wouldn't count on that. and looking into the Big 12 tournament, look, I don't remember. Maybe 2011 Big East might be the last time that I think I've seen an entire tournament where the field is going to be this good. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's this good. I don't think, obviously, we're not going to get the 11 teams in that I thought we were going to. I was throwing out that number. But I think 9. I think 9 can get in. I don't know about 10. Texas and K-State, they're especially K-State's really on the outside looking in. They're going to have to win at least 5 games here. I don't know if that's possible, but to get 9. But this tournament, I think, is going to be one of the best that I think the country has seen in a long while.
Yeah, have fun. I don't think I'll be there very long. It'll be fun to watch. Like, my couch is pretty cool. It's close to the fridge, so that should be all right. I don't know. Like, I think about what West Virginia can do and how audacious it was of this team to be like, hey, we got this roster together for the next, 12 games, house money, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, just win 5 games in 5 days or 4 games in 4 days, and you punch your ticket, and that's probably the best avenue to get in rather than winning like 9 out of your final 11. How hard is it going to be to win 3 in 3 days or 4 in 4 days when the talent's concentrated like that? Never mind 5 in 5 days. The physical toll is way too much, but I think it's be extremely competitive basketball, and and we talk about this too. Like, I think the most important people are going to be wearing black and white in that too, because you're going to see really, really physical, really desperate games by a bunch of teams that either want to win to play on. Just obviously they want to play for the semifinals or the finals, or like their season, even coaches' jobs are depending on it. If teams take on the personalities of the mission or their coaches, man, this could be rock fight after rock fight. I'm not sure the Big 12 wants that for television.
No, I don't think they do, and I don't think the officiating that we've seen from the conference this year is up for that either. I mean, you see some of the foul discrepancies in some of these games, some of the free throw discrepancies that are happening. It's been a constant point of conversation for pretty much every team in the conference. And you look with what some teams, just with how they play, Iowa State and Houston are 2 fantastic examples of this. 2 incredibly physical defenses who are capable of asserting themselves because you expect that maybe they get away with a little bit on the defensive side of the court that other teams don't get away with. But you also ask the question, they've been allowed to play like that all year. Yeah. What's going to happen when they get to the tournament and they don't have Big 12 refs on the court anymore?
Correct.
How are they going to deal with some foul trouble? That's how TCU beat Houston, especially in that first half. Houston got into some foul trouble, and then TCU was able to assert because Houston doesn't have the deepest bench in the country, but they do have some obviously top end talent. As far as the tournament goes, though, I'm going to be really interested to see, like you said, Mike, how many teams can just survive the grind of having to start on Tuesday with the championship game happening on Saturday. Like that's such a long time to play this physical, fast-paced brand of basketball that if you're not one of the top 4 seeds, I just don't see how you can make it to the end there.
Yeah.
I saw Kemba Walker do it. That was incredible.
Okay, so there's our one sample.
And there's been how many other candidates that have been forced to do it and have never made it. And like that team was obviously an outlier. They won the national title, right? So they won 11 in a row. It's just so hard. And that was maybe, I'm trying to think here, 10 years ago maybe. The players are just bigger, faster, stronger. Like it's too hard. It's too hard to do that now. I don't know how you're gonna have to be special to do that. Like it's one thing to win 6 games across 3 weekends. Okay, yeah. 5 in 5 days is otherworldly. I'd be extremely impressed, and that team would have deserved. Never mind a spot in this top 68, but like, what type of seed would a team get that wins the 5 and 5? Like, never. It's not gonna be 11 or 12 seed. That should be like an 8 or 9 seed, no matter what the record is, right? That's a high proving ground.
Well, the one thing about it is who actually, and everybody wants to win, but who's mad if you lose on Thursday and you're going to the NCAA tournament? Are you that upset if you lose on Thursday or Friday? Obviously, again, everybody wants to win, and your fan base is probably a little bit more upset. But how many of the head coaches are really thinking, you know what? Yeah, I wanted to play well. I wanted to win. But the NCAA tournament's where it's at. We don't have to go again through this meat grinder to try to win this conference tournament. I'm okay losing on a Thursday or a Friday.
And you talk about teams that are dealing with injuries too.
Yeah.
How much are you going to push some of these kids on day 4 when you know that you need them in 8 days?
Correct.
And I hear what you're saying there. I also think that just realistically, it's not a reasonable thing to ask for teams to get there on a Monday, try to have 14 teams get practices up in Kansas City, have a whole day of basketball on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just the travel and the planning that has to go into a 7-day trip versus a 4 or a 5-day trip, I think puts a lot of toll on some of these athletic departments too. I wonder if when it moves to 16 teams next year, if we don't see, hey, this is a 12 team, this is a 10 team tournament.
Yeah.
And if you're in the bottom quarter of the league, better luck next year. Because I just don't know how you can manage that long of a tournament when you're trying to do what's best for some of these student athletes.
I wonder about on-campus games. If you're trying to get 16 in, could you do something like that where you somehow seed it where like the highest seed has a home game and like the lowest seed has got to go somewhere? I wonder about that because it's a reward for putting a team at the bottom and making them play that extra game. I wonder if you can do that. It gets you in. You get some gate off of that. I wonder about that. But yeah, like 16 is going to be a huge thing because then how do you break? I mean, it's a tricky enough thing to do 14 teams right now. If you go to 16, like exactly how are you doing that? Are you going like who's getting buys and how many buys? I don't know about that. And like right now, like Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati is 4-7 in the conference and has maybe not an NCAA tournament resume, but could still be the 11th place team.
Correct.
You're making a team that could be NCAA tournament worthy start on Tuesday. Like there's a chance that Cincinnati wins enough games and takes care of business and finishes in 11th place. And that you could be in a tie, but tiebreakers may work against them because they've lost some games in the company of the teams that they're going to be with. And like, okay, that's fine. Here's a team that on the bubble could be getting in and they got to play on Tuesday and maybe Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And stuff. Like that's a tough ask. And like, no, that you might have to win. Never mind the first game. I don't think you're going to be rewarded for winning the 11-14 game. You might be expected to win the next one and you might need to win the third one. And great, you're in the semifinals now. You have to win 2 more games to win this thing. Like, okay, maybe that's a bit much to ask them, but like you're already asking them a lot as 11.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I just don't know how they're going to do the 16. It's kind of what you said. Not to mention, all these teams are playing on that previous Saturday. So it's not like they have all this time. No, like they played on Tuesday and they get a week to build up to this thing. No, they're playing on Saturday and then they're going to Kansas City. A lot of times they won't even go home. A lot of teams are just going right to Kansas City, and then here we go. So it'll be tough. Like I said, I'm going to enjoy watching the tournament. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be really good basketball, Mike. It's going to be look for West Virginia to do something, man. They're not. I get what you're saying, but they'll be there in the end. They're going to fight. A lot of these teams are going to fight. I think there's going to be some upsets where we don't expect it. Especially the way the teams held home court and beat some other teams that, on the road. You get to a neutral site. I'm expecting a lot of upsets in this tournament coming up, man. I just am.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can beat everybody. We've seen that throughout the season. I think, when we were both on the show, Mike, a month or two ago, we said the same thing. It's you never know what you're going to get from this conference on any given day. And that makes it wildly entertaining, right? I think it's part of the reason I love just sitting down and watching games that even TCU isn't involved in, is because I know that I'm going to see really quality basketball played regardless of the 2 teams that are on the court. And I will say this too, there might be an opportunity for some teams to just kind of mercilessly have things end. I was there Monday night for TCU West Virginia. And I sat in that press conference with Josh Eilert afterwards, and I haven't seen a more defeated man in quite a minute. And I understand that he's an interim, and I understand that everything that could have gone wrong for West Virginia this year pretty much has gone wrong for West Virginia this year. It might just be best at this point for some teams to just have the season, kind of shut it down. And I know I saw a lot and I had a conversation with several West Virginia fans since that Monday game who are frustrated with the lack maybe of transparency around the coaching search and all this stuff. And I'm like, but you guys understand he is the interim, right? It's not like he's you're not going to fire the interim halfway through the year to start a coaching search. Your coaching search has been underway since Bob Huggins left. And Mike, I think I saw a tweet of yours about this too this week, but it's really interesting. You get to this time of year and we're talking about tournaments, but we're also talking about some kind of the more disappointing stuff as well.
What did you guys think of the open week during the season for basketball? No SEC challenges here, so everybody had an off week.
Mm-hmm.
I think coaches liked it. I wonder if you would fill that with that midweek game, and then everybody finishes their season not on the Saturday before the Big 12 tournament, but on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you got a week off before the postseason. Could they do that? I don't know, but I think you're going to have that week built in now because of the travel. I think it's going to be way too much.
Yes, yeah. Mike, you have to have it, and I agree. End it on a Tuesday or Wednesday and give everybody a full week. There's nothing gained by playing that last Saturday of the year. You're not gaining anything. You really aren't. You can build the schedule around it and just make it work. Just gradually start pushing some of the games during the regular season back. Maybe you play a couple of games on a Thursday, maybe a Friday, and then you start gradually pushing it back until, okay, lo and behold, here's our last game is on Wednesday. You get a full week before the tournament, and then there we go.
Yeah,
I don't think that's hard to do. Schedule makers can figure that out.
Yeah, mid-majors do that. They could have it happen.
Yeah, they do.
And just thinking of West Virginia, they play their last game at Cincinnati. I'm pretty sure that's a bus ride. So some 6'8", 6'9", 7-foot dudes are going to be in a bus on that Saturday. They're going to bus home. They're going to practice on Sunday, and they're going to go to Kansas City on Monday. That's tough. And there's going to be other schools in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hear what you guys are saying, and I agree with it. I don't know that the Big 12 has a commissioner right now that would be willing to sacrifice some of the ratings that you get on that last Saturday of the regular season when he is banging the drum as hard as you possibly can for the Big 12 being a basketball conference and the basketball conference in college. I think that we're going to see that be a challenge to any kind of scheduling reprieve that teams might get ahead of the conference tournament.
That's fair.
Yeah, you're definitely fair. The one thing about it is then you both might be right. Maybe they don't do that, but maybe they just cut it back to 10 teams or 12 teams and just say, hey, if you didn't finish in the top half and you finish below 12, I'm sorry, you're not going to get an invite. So I think that might be the way, but I definitely think you're onto something, Jamie. Beating the drum of trying to be the basketball conference in the country. You're right. That revenue, because those games are going to be highly publicized. I don't think he's going to be willing to give that up. And maybe he shouldn't be either. Maybe what I said was wrong. Maybe he shouldn't be willing to give that up if that's what we're really trying to do. It probably does make sense. So
I don't know. I mean, the gates are just different on Tuesdays than they are on Saturdays.
Absolutely.
And I think that's gonna make a difference in their decision making.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys, man. I appreciate you guys coming out. We're going to take one quick break, but I appreciate you guys taking the time, man. Again, as always, we will bring you guys back as many times as you guys want to come. One last word from our partners at Synergy Financial, and then we'll end the show. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brien.
Thank you.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right. Well, first off, I don't want anybody to think that we just didn't show up the first 10, 12 minutes of the show. Apparently, when I clicked on to go live, it was just spinning. My Wi-Fi just said, we're not going to work. And then it just clicked on about 10 minutes, 12 minutes into the show. So I apologize for that. But we had good conversation as far as transfer portal. You didn't miss any of that. Didn't miss anything as far as what we were talking about with the Big 12 tournament coming up. We covered all of that ground. The first part that you did miss was about baseball. So again, I apologize, but we'll have both of those guys back on and we'll talk a little bit more baseball then. But as far as the Big 12 tournament, I think they both hit on really good points. The Big 12 tournament is a huge success in Kansas City. But what are they going to do down the stretch or in the future, per se, when you have 16 teams? I do believe that the best way to do it, you're going to have to cut some teams off. It's just no way that you're going to be able to get 16 teams in, get all the travel, get all the practice in when you get to Kansas City and make it work. I just don't think it's going to work that way unless you're going to start the tournament on Monday, which I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. So there's going to be some sacrifice. Everybody's not going to be happy. But at the same time, this is the world that we live in college athletics and super conferences. So there's going to have to be some sacrifices that are going to get made. So speaking of that, I appreciate everybody that showed up today. Thank you, guys. I promise we will get it better and do it right tomorrow. I'm going to smack around my internet provider, make sure that they get that thing right. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Again, Big 12 Insiders, Tuesday through Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time. Remember to go to Go PowerCat and subscribe, like, all that good stuff. We appreciate your all support. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.